Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. We're broadcasting from the gateway to the Amazon, from Belém, Brazil, at COP30. First headlines. Congress overwhelmingly passed legislation Tuesday to compel the Justice Department to release all files related to the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In the House, the vote was near unanimous at 427 to 1, with Republican Congressman Clay Higgins of Louisiana being the only Congress member to vote no. Just hours later, the Senate unanimously passed the House bill. President Trump had opposed the bill for months, but dramatically reversed course over the weekend when he encouraged Republicans to support the measure. He's vowed to sign the bill into law. Epstein and Trump were once close friends. On Monday, Epstein's brother Mark told News Nation, quote, Jeffrey definitely had dirt on Trump, unquote. Several Epstein survivors sitting in the House gallery cheered and embraced one another as the final vote tally was read. We'll hear from the survivors who spoke ahead of the House vote after headlines. While hosting Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman at the White House yesterday, President Trump called for ABC's broadcast license to be revoked. After ABC News White House correspondent Mary Bruce asked him why he had not released the Epstein files.
Mr. President, why wait for Congress to release the Epstein files? Why not just do it now?
You know, it's not the question that I mind, it's your attitude. I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. I think the license should be taken away from ABC because your news is so fake and it's so wrong. And we have a great commissioner, the chairman, who should look at that, because I think when you come in and when you're 97% negative to Trump and then Trump wins the election in a landslide, that means obviously your news is not credible and you're not credible as a reporter.
President Trump also defended Prince Mohammed bin Salman when Bruce asked about the Saudi Crown Prince's involvement in the 2018 murder of Washington Post opinion columnist Jamal Khashoggi.
As far as this gentleman is concerned, he's done a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
So plus. Trump's comments contradict a U.S. intelligence report, which found Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered Khashoggi's killing. Back in 2018, Khashoggi was lured into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, where a 15-person team led by a close associate of MBS drugged, murdered, and dismembered Khashoggi with a bone saw. Following the press conference, Robert Weissman, co-president of Public Citizen, issued a statement saying, quote, Trump's shameful and disgusting comments about the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi cannot be separated from Trump's personal business interests with the Saudi regime. Trump and his family are receiving at a minimum tens of millions annually from branding deals with Saudi Arabia, payments for doing nothing more than permitting their name to be attached to Saudi projects, unquote. On Tuesday night, Trump held a black-tie dinner for Prince Mohammed bin Salman at the White House. Dozens of CEOs attended, including Elon Musk, Amazon's Jeff Bezos, and Apple CEO Tim Cook. Hamas and other factions inside Gaza are rejecting the U.S.-backed UN plan to place Gaza under the control of a U.S.-led board and an international stabilization force. In a statement, the Palestinian groups likened the plan to a, quote, deep international partnership in the war of extermination waged by the Israeli occupation against our people, unquote. This is Hamas spokesperson Hazem Qassem.
This resolution fully adopts the Israeli position and completely ignores the Palestinian position and the interests of our Palestinian people here in the Gaza Strip. Netanyahu does not want to continue with the ceasefire agreement, but rather wants to impose his vision on the Gaza Strip and the entire region.
This comes as Israel continues to carry out airstrikes in Gaza. Officials in Gaza say Israel's killed 279 Palestinians since the ceasefire came into effect in October. In Lebanon, Israel launched an airstrike on a Palestinian refugee camp, Ain el-Hilwa, killing 13 people and wounding several others. Another Israeli attack targeted a vehicle in southern Lebanon, killing one person. Established in 1948, Ain el-Hilwa is the largest of 12 Palestinian refugee camps and is home to at least 64,000 people. Tuesday's attack is the latest violation of Israel's ceasefire with Hezbollah, which went into effect a year ago. According to the UN, Israel's been targeting Hezbollah in near-daily attacks since the ceasefire, resulting in at least 100 civilian deaths. Local media outlets in Somalia are reporting 12 Somali civilians, including 8 children, were killed Sunday in a suspected U.S. airstrike. So far this year, the U.S. is believed to have carried out nearly 100 strikes in Somalia targeting the group al-Shabaab. President Trump's voiced support for U.S. attacks inside Mexico and Colombia. This comes as Trump is refusing to rule out sending in ground troops to Venezuela. The New York Times reports Trump has also signed off on CIA plans for covert measures inside Venezuela, possibly to prepare the battlefield for a wider war. However, Trump has also reportedly reopened back-channel communications with the government of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. The U.S. has recently amassed over 15,000 troops in the region and bombed over 20 boats in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. The U.S. has claimed the boats were carrying drugs, but no proof has been offered. On Tuesday, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum responded to Trump's threats.
We've said this with the State Department, with Marco Rubio, and they have understood. So much so that the understanding we have with them is one of collaboration and coordination. And the first points make very clear the respect for sovereignty, respect for our territoriality, and that there is collaboration and coordination without subordination.
Hundreds of protesters rallied in Raleigh, North Carolina Tuesday to protest new federal immigration raids in the city. This comes as federal agents continue to target Charlotte, where agents have arrested more than 200 immigrants since this weekend. The Department of Homeland Security has also announced plans to send 250 federal border agents to conduct immigration sweeps in Louisiana and Mississippi. A federal court ruled that Texas cannot use its recently passed congressional map for the 2026 midterm elections and will instead have to rely on a previous map from 2021. Texas Republican state legislators over the summer pushed for a new congressional map that could garner the GOP 5 additional House seats. In his ruling striking down the new congressional map, Trump-appointed Judge Jeffrey Brown wrote, quote, "The public perception of this case is that it's about politics. To be sure, politics played a role in drawing the 2025 map, but it was much more than just politics. Substantial evidence shows Texas racially gerrymandered the 2025 map," unquote. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton vowed to ask the U.S. Supreme Court to reverse the ruling. Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott declared Tuesday the Council on American Islamic Relations, known as CAIR, the country's largest Muslim civil rights group, a foreign terrorist organization. In a statement, Texas Governor Abbott said CAIR's goal is, quote, "to forcibly impose Sharia law and establish Islam's mastership of the world," unquote. Abbott also designated the Muslim Brotherhood as a foreign organization and prohibited both groups from acquiring property in the U.S. Robert McCall, Healthcare's Director of Government Affairs responded to Abbott in a letter saying, quote, "You do not have the authority to unilaterally declare any Americans or American institutions terrorist groups, nor is there any basis to level this smear against our organization," unquote. The Trump administration's taken more steps to dismantle the Department of Education by shifting several key programs to other federal agencies. In one move, the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education will be transferred to the Labor Department. Becky Pringle, the president of the National Education Association, criticized the move, saying, quote, "Donald Trump and his administration chose American Education Week, a time when our nation's celebrating students, public schools, and educators, to announce their illegal plan to further abandon students by dismantling the Department of Education," unquote. A federal judge has ruled in favor of Meta and against the Federal Trade Commission in an antitrust suit that claimed the social media giant is trying to establish a monopoly by buying up Instagram and WhatsApp. In his ruling, District Judge James Boasberg wrote, quote, "The landscape that existed only 5 years ago when the FTC brought this antitrust suit has changed markedly. While it once might have made sense to partition apps into separate markets of social networking and social media, that wall has since broken down," unquote. Earlier this year, President Trump called for the impeachment of Judge Boasberg after he ruled against Trump's ability to invoke wartime powers to deport migrants. Brazil's Supreme Court has sentenced high-ranking military officials and a federal police officer to 24 years in prison after finding them guilty for the assassination attempt against President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. It allows a similar ruling back in September. It follows a similar ruling back in September against former President Jair Bolsonaro, who was sentenced to 27 years and 3 months in prison for a coup attempt against President Lula. Earlier this month, Brazil's Supreme Court unanimously rejected Bolsonaro's appeal challenging his prison sentence. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to make sure you never miss a video. And for more of our audience-supported journalism, go to democracynow.org, where you can download our news app, sign up for our newsletter, subscribe to the daily podcast, and so much more.